All right, you got Netrunner here, and we have a special guest today, Anthony Pearson. His handle on Jinteki is what is it again?
It's TonyBlueHose. So I went to a small school in South Carolina called Presbyterian College, and their mascot was the Blue Hose, and so it just at one point people were just putting their names in front of the word Blue Hose, so it's just it's a dumb name, but I've used it basically forever.
Very nice. No, I love a good story behind the handle there. So TonyBlueHose, but we're going to be calling him Anthony
Yeah.
here. Much fewer syllables there to pronunciate. And
Yep.
the way I found out about Anthony is I started putting out content, and he's been one of the most usual people coming in and providing supportive comments, and also just sharing some feedback, and even, I mean, I caught him, and then I went out and I found him on Facebook in the Netrunner dorks, and then I caught him on BGG. This guy's everywhere, being super nice to people, and supporting them, and just sharing good stuff about Netrunner. And so immediately I was like, this is my kind of guy right here. And so I reached out to him and asked him if he was interested in coming on and sharing his Netrunner story, and then playing some games with me. So that's what we're here for, and we're happy to have you, Anthony. And I'll turn it over to you to share your Netrunner
Yeah.
story.
Oh, thanks, man. So I think I kind of working backwards. That was when you had reached out to me. And you had kind of made that statement that you had just made too. That's something that I've kind of, I don't know, I want to say prided myself on, but I realized that I like this. I care. I guess I want to say I care about the game. Like, I have so much fun playing, and I care about the community, that when I see people getting invested in creating content, I like being a cheerleader for those people, and I like signal boosting those people. And that's been, if anything, you had asked me kind of in a chat before this, kind of, do I have a role in this? And I don't have a role that's, I don't want, and I don't think I would even want to have a role that's in within the creation of things, but I like being someone who wants to build people up and kind of support people from the background. And so, like, when you were putting this stuff out, I just said, man, I'm so excited to see, especially after the game is, quote unquote, well, transitioned from this from an FFG thing to what it is now. I think it's amazing that people are dialing into the game now, and there's new podcasts coming out, and there's just new content being created, and it's just so exciting because I think the game is elegant and fun, and I think the community is so much fun to be part of. And so anyway, I could ramble. I get fired up about it just talking about it, so I could talk about this stuff all day.
Hey, we're here. I got an open ear for you right here.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll start from the beginning, and
Okay.
tell how it all began.
Yes, sure. So I think the medium version is, I had never played we'll call them a hobby game before. When I was a kid, I had played some Dungeons and Dragons, but the extent, and I remember when I was in high school, Magic had just come out, so it was in its infancy then, and I remember seeing guys playing it, and I just never kind of tapped into it, but I was always kind of curious about it. Fast forward a million years, and I had moved into a city where there was a game store down the road, and I went down there and kind of started getting dialed into hobby game community. At the same time, a buddy of mine who was in that community came over, and he had the Netrunner core set, and I remember I didn't even understand how this thing worked. I didn't understand how deck building worked. I didn't understand anything about it. But once we started exploring the game and kind of learning the game and fumbling through the game, I had never experienced something like this in kind of the community that in a hobby that this was. I remember going to my first game night meetup at that game store that I had moved down the street from, and I just had the time of my life. It was so much fun being with the guys who were playing and the people who were playing, and since then I just kind of never looked back, and I kind of was as I guess the phrase is kind of ride or die. Even through the bad parts of Netrunner, I was still enjoying myself in the game. I've been competitive-ish, so I think maybe that helped me, because I think as the game had a lot of burnout in some of those middle years, because I kind of didn't have the wear and tear on my brain that some other people had, because I was some of the guys who were in our meta were playing 4 or 5 nights a week at different stores, and I was going 1 night a week at one store. And so for me, I never experienced that burnout. And so because and as that kind of progressed, as it kind of went forward, I always was kind of the semi-competitive player, but I was just happy to be there. I was happy to be in the community, just playing this game, because of how much fun it is and just how much fun the people were in our community. So and that's just kind of where it's been since. Our community, we still have a meta. Right now, it's kind of all digital, just like everything that has to do with Netrunner right now. But I'm looking forward to getting back when the time is right, where we can all kind of sit down across from each other again. I think it's going to be so much fun. So,
absolutely,
yeah, that's it. This was my first kind of hobby game, and I haven't looked back or looked elsewhere.
Yeah, that's awesome. So at what point in the game did you come in? I know you started with the core set, but was it already rolling by then, or did it just come out?
Yeah, it was so I had picked up the core set with the first few data packs. So I guess that was 2012. And then and then at one point there was and I don't know if you'd ever played on Octagon. Did you ever do that?
I've seen it, but I never played on it.
Okay, man, that was an interface that was one of those things where I was like, man, I must love this game, because I'm going through hoops. I'm going through hoops to play on this format and this platform that is pretty wonky. But then you get used to it, and it's kind of like, okay, I can do this. Yeah. So I've been there basically since the beginning.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And so I always like to ask this just so I can kind of compare, because I'm at about 225 games now. How many games would you estimate you've probably played a Netrunner over the years?
Man, oh gosh, I can't even count. I've played so much Netrunner. I play basically every morning right now, because it's just kind of the way things work for my family and my job. Once I get my kids all set up with their online school and I have a little window of time, normally I'll make a cup of coffee and probably jam a couple of games. I actually just enjoy that in the morning, like my coffee and Netrunner. I've played so much Netrunner. 1,000, 2,000. I don't even know, man. I couldn't tell you.
I bet it's probably up in about 4,000, man, to be honest with you. Everybody underestimates how much they've played, really. Like one of the guys I was talking to, he said 300, and I was like, there's no way. And he pulled it up and realized, oh, I've played 300 just on Jinteki.
Right. Oh, actually, I have Jinteki pulled up. Let me see. I got it pulled up. Let me see. So and like I said, I've been playing forever, and I'm just a middle of the road player. So I have, and I feel bad, because a lot of times, especially with my kids home, and when stuff rises with my family, I have to drop games, not frequently, but enough that it makes me self-conscious about it. Let's see, I have 1,891 completed games on Jinteki.
Wow.
As the stats lie right now.
That's wild. Yeah, I bet you've played a lot more in stores over the years. I mean, you've been going for
Yeah,
6 years. That's
yeah,
phenomenal.
and man, and the thing and the funny thing is, like, I just, like I said, I like playing competitive decks, but I just kind of like playing everything. I'm so partial to Glacier, and I just love that part of Netrunner. So, and I know that a lot of times the go wide decks are the most competitive, and I just don't like playing that style. So I'll always I'll always play the style that I like, but I'm always paying attention to if there's a style that I gravitate towards that starts to become competitive, then
Mm-hmm.
I'll lean towards that. I don't think I'm a very good deck maker. And so a lot of times I like to do a lot of, I call it shopping, where I'll go to Netrunner DB and I'll just kind of poke around and look at stuff. And if something strikes my interest, then that's what I'll try out. So the few times that when I make a deck, I often find that it's just not as good as when, if you're playing a deck that you can tell just kind of sings on all accounts, where the economy is good and it's doing just kind of pure Netrunner stuff. Like, I would try to do kind of fancy pants stuff and it would just blow up in my face, or the cards would come out in the wrong order. So I think that's another thing that's kind of neat about Netrunner is often the best variant is the just pure econ programs running.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yep. So I think you've already alluded to it, but my next question is, what are your favorite factions? I think I got a guess on your corpse side already here, but
All right. So what would you guess is my corpse side?
I'm leaning obviously towards HB or Wayland if you're going Glacier there.
Yeah, HB is my jam.
Yeah.
I love HB Glacier. I love it. And so I know that, and rightfully so. I guess from a competitive standpoint, GameNet got nerfed, but when there was the fact that NDN had a Glacier deck, um, I thought I was pretty excited about that. I was like, that's something I can get behind. If I got a wall of ice and I'm jamming things down in the bottom of the server, then that's Netrunner,
Hmm.
to me anyway.
Yeah.
I'll always look for a Glacier esque deck.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up. What about on the runner side?
Um, I think I don't necessarily have a favorite faction. I tend to have uh I've always kind of called them like my first loves, and so my first loves have been Reina and Leela and Kit.
Hmm.
Those three runners I just thought were so much fun to play.
Hmm.
Uh, were you playing at a time that Reina had those chess piece cards?
I've played some of those decks, but I didn't actually get. I got the game in 2015 and played like 25 games over the next 4 years, right? Because I was in the board games and couldn't find anybody and didn't realize I needed to just go to my local game store and play Netrunner, right? And so I didn't pick it
Right.
up until like February 2019. So, but I did put together
Gotcha.
me a Reina chess piece and make a nice expensive deck, and I love that
Yeah.
deck.
Man, that's so much fun. You know what sucks is when you play against a deck that doesn't have any ice.
Yeah. Oh man.
But that's the whole thing about Reina is Reina wants to interact with ice, and there's decks that don't do that, and that's I mean, and so maybe that's kind of my thought about it is like maybe that's why I gravitate towards glaciers, because I think, well, that's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to mess with ice and kind of do things, but that's not the case.
Hmm.
I like Kit because that seems like Kit has kind of an inherent game plan built into the deck, which is run R&D, everything's a code gate, smash, and I like that. And Leela, there was I'm pretty sure this player, I can't remember his name, but he's a brilliant player. It was so much fun watching him play. He's from England. He always was running these Leela decks, and he had one called the Endless Waltz, and I cannot remember his name. But like, to me, if I was to become, and of course I can't remember his name, but like I was a fan. It was Dave. Was it Dave Hoyland? I can't remember. But the way that he would play his Leela decks were just brilliant. And I just, it was so much fun watching him play Leland. He's got a deck that's, it probably is one of those like Hall of Fame decks. It's called the Endless Waltz. And I just wanted, like, it was just so much fun. And so anyway, I would gravitate towards Leela on the criminal side.
Got you. Yeah, I've been gravitating towards Leela myself a lot. I've honestly never played maybe like more than 4 games outside of the criminal faction because I just want to experience it and figure it out. But I really also want to play with the other cards because I need to be able to know what I need to put into my criminal decks, right? And I want to see if maybe I like the other factions just as much. I might end up. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, they like to face check, and I like to face check too. And they're like, it's just isn't as painful with anarchs. And I'm like, huh? Maybe I'm an anarch guy and didn't know it.
That's 100% true. Yeah, I mean, yeah, when you know that you can get when losing cards into the bin isn't as big of a deal if you know that you can just install them back out of there. Yeah, so and that's, to me, that's like that thing that's fun with Reyna is she gets to she has that additional tax. The problem with her is that once everything is rezzed, her ability is more or less offline.
Yeah. Yep. So I usually ask people this, even I think you've already kind of alluded to it. I usually ask, what's your goals? What are you trying to, are you trying to get better and get to another level? Or it sounds like you're kind of content right there and just enjoying it where you're at, huh?
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I will. And if I can go to Worlds this year, or if I can participate in Worlds this year, I 100% will. When I play, I do want to be competitive. I don't like, but at the same point, I'm there to have fun. And so to me, like, having fun and winning, I can put those in to the Venn diagram kind of overlays a little bit, but not a lot. Like if I'm like stinking up the tournament, then I'm just gonna, I would take a couple breaths and, I would proceed. But to me, it wouldn't be the end of the world because I just enjoy having the experience of playing Netrunner. So where I am right now is I'm just happy to play. I'm happy to play in the morning. I'm happy to goof off with the people I see on Jinteki, and I'm happy to be part of that community. If I were to play competitively, when I go to a tournament, I've done well enough that I think it's reasonable to. My goals are not necessarily to win, but I'd like to try to make it to the cut. Now, when I do that I'm playing at smaller tournaments. At this point, the 8-man, the 10 person tournaments where I think a cut is a very reasonable goal. Mm-hmm. I think if I get to go to Worlds, the competition would be probably something that I'd never seen. So my goals would be, I would probably rearrange my goals to say, I want to finish in the top 50. I want to finish in the top 25. I think that feels reasonable and something that I wouldn't get frustrated based on how my day is going.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm actually looking to do Worlds as well, and I'm trying to finish up somewhere around 275 out of 300, maybe. That I'd be proud of that.
You know what? I think it's. I tell you what. So would Worlds be one of your first tournaments or your first tournament?
Well, yeah, it's going to be like I play Netrunner and modded on green level clearance servers, and they're like 15-man tournaments and just Swiss, right? But yeah, this will definitely be the first time I sat down and went 8 rounds and played against who knows what the competition is going to be like. I just don't know.
It is so doing store champs and regionals and things like that. It is an experience. It is a brain, like, it is so funny how your brain just can become mush because you are like, if you were to put like those little EEG plugs onto your brain in a tournament, your whole brain would probably be on fire the entire time. Like I know that's how it feels for me,
Yeah.
and it's so much fun. But man, when I'm done, I'm like, wow, like it's not like I went running. I didn't go play soccer, like, but I am gassed.
Yep. That's what I hear. So I'm
Yeah,
excited
so
to get to experience it one way or the other, but I hope I win a few games along the way. I'm gonna put in a little bit of work before then. I
yeah,
think I got
man,
a
yeah.
chance.
Get some reps in, and then one of the things I was going to bring up that I listened to on some podcast a while back, and I'd be curious about your philosophy on this. So one of the well, let me ask you this: what is your stand like? Do you want to build a deck that's your own, or are you just kind of looking for something to play? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, so for me, I've been net decking almost the whole time. I built maybe like 4 decks and they were all pretty much garbage. So I've been net decking. But what I
Mm,
end up doing is I end up net decking and I end up tweaking it. And I probably ain't tweaking it
yeah,
for the better, but I'm still like, reverting back to those old tendencies, putting cards in there that gravitate to my generic, my play style and everything. So,
right.
so they get tweaked a little bit, but if I find one that's good off the rip and I modify a couple of cards on it and it's rolling, I'm pretty happy about that. I feel like there's a little
Yeah,
piece of it that's mine.
yeah. I think that's fair. I think that's what I have found at times, and again, I wouldn't tell you to, obviously follow your mind and follow your heart. For me, whenever I've done some of that tweaking with something that was a competitive deck, it's so funny because I'll play it and I'll be like, I wanna put some TonyBlueHose spin on it, and then I play like 10 games with it. And I was like, I need to put that. What was that card that I took out?
Yeah, no, I'm
And
with you.
I was
Yeah,
like, oh, it's actually a better deck now. So, and I think to me, there's that idea of it's okay. Like, I don't I'm not going to frown on anyone who like says, "All right, I know that there are Netrunner metas that are workshopping stuff, and there are groups of people who are workshopping decks and trying to find that strong stuff. And you still have to play the cards, and you still got to play the game. So and to me, that's that thing where you could have everybody playing the strongest decks, but the players who have a grasp on the game and kind of like when you had kind of asked me about what like talking about your lines of play, those guys who know those lines of play down, man, it's just like watching them play those competitive decks. It really is something neat.
yep, absolutely. And for me, my ultimate goal is to, well, not my ultimate goal, but one of my goals is to eventually get to a place where I know the card pool good enough that I can build a deck. And I want to one day hopefully build a unique deck that's something like,
Yeah.
does something really cool. That's something that's on the bucket list. I want to
I
build
like that.
something that does something
Yeah, yeah.
funky. And I don't care if it's great or not. I just wanted to do something funky, but I got a ways to go. I got a lot of cards to learn before I feel like I'm there. So I'm going to keep on
Yeah.
net decking for a while. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. And so kind of the last thing I'd want to say about learning the card pool, I would be just aware that, so I don't even know how big the standard card pool is. Let's say it's, who knows, 600, 700 cards.
Mm.
The amount of cards you actually have to know is significantly, whatever the card pool is, it's significantly lower than that because you're going to start, and you've probably seen that just through you playing now. Like you're like, okay, like there's that card again. There's every now
Yep.
and then you'll start to kind of, yeah, every now and then you'll see kind of one of those cards in the wild where you're like, what is that? But
Hmm.
most of the time you kind of start seeing some of the same stuff.
Oh yeah. No, I get that on the competitive level. I want to actually use some of those cards and actually make them good one day, but I doubt that'll happen. If everybody else can't do it,
Maybe,
then
I'm not, you know what? You got the fire in your belly. I would not sell you short.
yeah, yeah, I'll give it a shot one day. But hey, I'll probably turn into another jank deck like everybody else. So,
But you know what? That sounds fun too.
yeah, it does. It does. Man, I love this game. I got my goals, but I also if I ever get to a place where my goals aren't fun, then it's time to go back to what I was doing. So I'm gonna have.
Absolutely.
It's all
Yeah.
about having fun
I,
with it.
absolutely. I think maybe that's why I've been able to, I guess, quote unquote, last so long as a fan of the game is um, because I've been able to take that kind of that attitude of like I'm having so much, like it's just fun, like it's fun to play, it's fun to mess around with this game, and that's been able to give me kind of that I've never felt burnt out of Netrunner, and I don't like I'm like people will, and people will come and people will go, and that's completely understandable with anything, with any hobby, but I think having the way that I view the game allows me to not get tired of it, and that's something I'm pretty happy with.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's what it's about. It's a game, right? It's fun, you know. So
Yeah, dude, 100%. Well,
yeah,
speaking of, you wanna throw down a little bit?
yo, we're definitely about to do that. I got a couple more questions for you, though. I can't let you get out on these questions. This next one's gonna
Oh
be
man.
tough. All right, this one right
All
here.
right.
You ready for this?
Sure.
What are your strengths and weaknesses in Netrunner as far as gameplay?
Um, let's see. Strengths and weaknesses. I do not. I do, it kind of speaks to the philosophy that I was just talking about, but I don't really get frustrated when I play. Like if if I'm just playing random games on JNet and all of a sudden I come up against one of those powerhouse go wide decks, I don't just like concede the game. I take a breath and say, okay, like this person's working this tough deck out, and I so one of my strengths might not actually have to do with the game itself, but just my attitude towards when I'm in a match. I'll fight tooth and nail and I'll try to solve the problem of what I'm dealing with. And I think that helps me become a better player because I don't just kind of be like, this sucks. I just want to get this over and done with. I think one of my weaknesses is that because because I have a vision of what I enjoy a lot about the game, I don't explore some things that I think could probably be really fun to play. I've played some CTM decks, and a lot of people loathe CTM, and I understand why. Like CTM can be so hard to play against, and it can be so oppressive. But I have played CTM so few little times that maybe I'm missing something there. Like maybe maybe there's something fun to play in a CTM deck. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's so even having played this game for years and years, not exploring all there is about the game, that's probably a weakness.
Yeah, I can relate to that in my short time not exploring. But hey, like I said, it's fun. I'm just going to keep on playing games, and hopefully eventually I'll have time to get there. So last question, and this isn't me trying to start no drama. I'm just a young guy in the game, and I love hearing from you vets that have been there. And so the question is, what do you think about Nisi and what they've done and with the meta and everything? I'm always interested in getting y'all's opinion because I'm a fanboy. I'm going to tell you, I'm excited.
Okay, so right, so as you kind of you probably tell, since I'm ride or die with Netrunner, I will do my best not to look through rose-colored glasses, and even though I want to assume that things are fine always. I want to assume that the game is in a good place, and sometimes it's not. What I think though is I think right now there are more people working on Netrunner than when it was at FFG.
Wow.
And there are more people who know more about the game than when it was at FFG. So you're talking about a group of people who are so passionate about this that they want to see it go on and continue and create content for it. That I think that so when the Ashes cycle came out, you saw a lot of really wordy cards, and to me it felt like kind of this is just my 2 cents, and I could be wrong about this, but it seemed like people were just kind of saying like, we want to make cards right and we want to make them mechanically correct, and where I think sometimes FFG would just kind of be like, yeah, you know what this card does, like this makes sense, and what would happen is they would make mistakes that I think Nisei is trying to do a really good job not making. Now, that doesn't mean that there's cards that are perfect, and I think there's cards that could be troublesome. But when you have a passionate group of people who are working on the game and they're hopefully listening to each other, I'm very hopeful about what Netrunner looks like down the road. So, so like I said, I can't imagine a situation. I mean, I can, but my hope is that we have cards for years to come, and the game thrives and whatever in whatever capacity that it can grow as a kind of underground thing. I don't know, but at the same point, there's something cool about a game about underground runners that's being led by kind of this underground group.
Yep. No, it's cool, man. And like you said, I'm very excited about the next cards to see, that sophomore album they got coming out. So
I cannot wait to put my hands on new cards. I'm so excited about that.
Yep, for sure. So, all right, well, you passed the test here, and we're about to get into some games. I'll give you the last word, and then we'll cut this recording, and we'll jump into the next one with us playing a couple of games here.
Yeah, man, no last words. Let's just do it.
All right, let's do it. All right. That was Anthony Pearson, aka TonyBlueHose, and it's a pleasure getting to talk with you finally, and looking forward to seeing you around for years to come.
Yeah, man.
All right.